Andy Mitten, editor of United We Stand, is with us. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, fresh from a fourth win in a row on Sunday, Manchester United play Real Sociedad Thursday in the Europa League, then Crystal Palace away on Sunday at 4:30, and they are feeling much better about life. Andy, so after Brighton and Brentford, we had the beginnings of a crisis, and now 2 weeks on, Ten Hag has rightly plumbed for pragmatism and probably more than steady the ship, you would have to say.
Well, 4 straight wins, and I got tired of speaking to you when you ringed me.
It was so miserable talking to you for about a year.
Yeah, a year. I mean, this wasn't like a blip. This went on a long time, and I tweeted a few weeks ago when Manchester United won the first away game after 7 straight defeats. It got to 38 minutes, and I said, this is the first time Manchester United have got to a game just before the first half without going behind, without conceding a goal. And some of the statistics you could apply to that run were not to be expected of a club like Manchester United. But 2 1-0 away wins at Southampton and Leicester, home wins against Liverpool and Arsenal, 12 points. Confidence is come up off the floor. It's really high. I think United have been pretty fortunate to get all 12 points. I think they could have dropped points in several of those matches. I thought Arsenal were excellent. And even at Old Trafford on Sunday, when it was 1-1, I was thinking I'd take a 1-1. I'd take a 1-1 there because I just thought Arsenal were good. So that the fact that United went on and won the game 3-1, scoring great goals, they're counter-attacking really well, is very encouraging for Manchester United fans. And then we're going to the Europa League against a Real Sociedad side who are very good. I've spoke to probably their best midfielder today, Mikel Merino, and they feel that when they lost 4-0 against United in 2020 in Turin, they really let themselves down. It wasn't a 4-0 game, and I think he's probably right.
I'm sure it struck you in the way it struck many people that in going about their business over the last 4 games, Manchester United under Ten Hag have reverted to what worked best for Solskjaer.
Yeah, I spoke to someone in the club today who said we weren't as bad as the Brighton result suggests. And Brentford, the first half was an abomination, but we actually got a bit better in the second half. Now, if you're losing at home or you're losing 4-0 to Brentford, no excuses whatsoever will fly, especially when those 2 results come back to back. If you look at the Liverpool game, I'd take your point. United had a lot less possession than Liverpool, got the transitions right, got the chances and took the chances and won the game because of that. And there were elements of that against Arsenal. However, United had more possession and created a more equal number of chances. At Southampton, that was the nervy one because it was the first time United, we've got to avoid a defeat. A draw would be okay against Southampton. And then Leicester last Thursday night, brilliant away end. Leicester really struggling. Brendan Rodgers pretty revealing in his press conference after the game, but a 1-0 win away from home. And each of those wins has lifted the confidence. Add to that some late transfer arrivals, Casemiro and Anthony, who had a fine debut against Arsenal, and the mood just continues to lift. And it's basically been picked up off the floor. Against Arsenal, against Liverpool at Old Trafford, it was fantastic. It was absolutely bouncing for both of them. A lot of tension, a lot of protests still against the owners. They will probably subside if the team carry on winning. That's just human nature. But they were pretty substantial against Arsenal at the weekend. And I looked at the fixtures going into that Liverpool match, and I thought, the worst. And I'm an optimist. And I was stood outside the ground, and I felt the atmosphere as thousands of people were walking past, a lot of them protesting. And somehow Manchester United got that win against Liverpool. Maybe that's why we love football so much, that it is so unpredictable.
Andy, stay with us. There's been a goal at Parkhead, Will.
Yeah, looks like this one could well be checked, but it is Vinicius Junior, one of the in-form forward players you've been talking about in Europe. Contender for the Ballon d'Or, but his mate Karim Benzema will probably win that. Celtic will be a little bit disappointed because they've been caught in the break here, and that kind of style of play from Real Madrid that we were talking about just a moment ago, it starts way back where the ball is intercepted. Courtois rolls the ball out pretty quickly. Celtic have pushed up. It's a 1-2 that's played in midfield, and it's amazing how quickly Real Madrid are able to transition their play, and then there's just just to break down the right-hand side. Valverde squares it across effectively to the penalty spot, and there's Vinicius Junior. In the first half, he wasn't quite able to get there before Joe Hart, but in this time he's able to just sweep the ball right-footed into the bottom corner, and Real Madrid lead 1-0 at Parkhead.
Very good. So that's the latest from Parkhead. We'll run you through all the other scores in a moment. Andy Mitten is still with us. I mean, in the Arsenal game, Arsenal... It was just so strange in many ways. As you rightly say, Andy, Arsenal were very good and dominated in most respects for long periods. They had 16 shots to United's 10. They had 60% possession. Zinchenko was wandering into midfield when they were in possession. Xhaka go further up the pitch. They seemed to have numbers in pockets, and they did their thing. And when United closed out the game, it was a case of, well, Fred, on you go and shore up the middle, and Bruno Fernandes shunted out to the right. Not a long-term solution, but fine in the short term. And I suppose that's what you would say about Ten Hag at the moment, that he is not asking David De Gea to play intricate passes a la Brentford. He is not asking the team to overplay. It is sensible. Let's get ourselves out of this crisis that we're in, and we'll deal with the future in the future. That'd be the sense of Ten Hag at the moment.
Well, you used the word pragmatic at the start, and I agree with that. I also agree with what you just said about Arsenal. Equally, I could say I saw Diogo Dalot, who's a right back, leading the left attack at one point for Manchester United. So one thing that Ten Hag does is he changes his tactics. He's got the ability to do that both within the game or go man-to-man as he did against Liverpool because he felt that he needed to. The defence has come on really strong. The best players have been Lisandro Martinez. Rafael Varane is finally looking like the player Manchester United hoped he would be when they signed him from Real Madrid. All the new signings have started well. I think Malacia had his most difficult game test against Arsenal. I thought Saka was running at him and he was struggling at times. Casemiro, we've not really seen him because Scott McTominay is keeping Casemiro out of the Manchester United first 11. I'll just repeat that sentence again. Scott McTominay is keeping Casemiro out of Manchester United's first 11. I can't believe that I'm even saying that, but that is the reality of it. He's playing well. He's trusted by his manager. The manager's made some big shouts, dropping Ronaldo, dropping Harry Maguire, but he can rightly feel vindicated by that. So the league table is looking more favourable for Manchester United. I've still not met a United fan who thinks the team's going to win the league, but the last 4 games have been enjoyable. The Europa League is a competition I think United should go all out to win. There's not been any silverware now since 2017. Real Sociedad are a really good team, and Ten Hag is building a big squad because just over the horizon he feels he's got the World Cup, and he's worried about the state of the players when they come back from that. But before that, there's 2 games a week, 3 games a week.
Anthony took his goal very well and celebrated like a personality who has the temperament to take attention, which is required at Manchester United. What about his overall game, the money that they've paid for him? What are your impressions of Anthony?
It's a lot of money, but Ajax didn't need to sell anyone. They didn't need the money. What are they going to do with the money? And if they sensed Manchester United were getting desperate, then they were right. And that was compounded by the opening 2 results. I know one huge club who looked at Anthony and decided against him because he brought another player who felt they would fit their style of play more. But I spoke to a sporting director at that club and he said, you'll get more YouTube moments out of Anthony. They really rated him highly. We saw that in the first half at Old Trafford. He didn't need to be flicking his legs left, right. But it's football, it's entertainment, it's sport. I was in the main stand and people were clapping and laughing and the Arsenal fans were furious. And great, you can have a bit of that. He took his goal well. He's confident, he's cocksure. You saw him out in Manchester on Sunday night with his friends. He just looks like he's delighted with how his life is going. But yeah, it's a huge amount of money, and his statistics were not that great for Ajax, considering they won the league, his assist level, his goals levels. But if there's one player who does know about Anthony, then it's Erik Ten Hag. And this transfer window has been driven by him, which is great. Now we're talking among the euphoria of the Arsenal win for Manchester United fans. If he then loses his job after 18 months, after 2 years, it becomes more of a problem because so many of the players have been brought in on his say-so rather than that of a sports director.
Eric Bailly has been talking in advance of Marseille's opening Champions League game against Spurs. I don't think Manchester United are hanging on to hear the gospel from Eric Bailly, but his comments caught the eye nonetheless. He said The club, this is Manchester United, should avoid favouring English players and give everyone a chance. He said the club should encourage competition in the dressing room, not just look out for some. I've always had the feeling that the national player was prioritised. That doesn't happen at Chelsea or other big Premier League clubs. Some people take it for granted they're going to start. That weakens the team. Luckily, Ten Hag has a lot of character, and I hope he can change that dynamic. So I suspect the ears of Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire are burning there, and that's who Erik Bailly is talking about. I was away, Andy, and I was watching just as this is like an insight into everything and an insight into nothing. But I was watching the Arsenal game in a kind of pub setting, and it was mainly English Manchester United fans all around me. And there was the moment where, and they were pretty happy at this stage, I suppose, but Harry Maguire comes on, Casemiro miscontrols the ball. Maguire, in that way that we can all picture, unfortunately, is flustered and kind of just looks a little clumsy, and he gives away the foul, and it's a yellow card. And all these fans around me just started laughing. Like, Maguire had officially become a figure of fun, and it was almost like, isn't it great we're not stuck with that guy starting anymore? And even just on a humane level, what's happened to Harry Maguire, booed by the English fans, very much like gone after with inside and outside the dressing room, it's actually a terrible thing. I felt immense sympathy for him, in so much as you can for a multi-millionaire footballer, but like, he must be wondering what the hell's happened to his career.
He's not having a great point. I've just spoke to him this evening, just before I spoke to you. I think he's absolutely fine mentally. He's a footballer. He's had his ups, he's had his downs, and he's lost his place in the team for the moment. I think he'll play against Real Sociedad. I don't like some of the elements of what you're talking about on a human level against anybody. He's not a pantomime figure. He's not a joke of a person. His life's actually been very successful to get to the level that he's got to. But last season wasn't good for him, or for a lot of other Manchester United players. With Erik Bailly, I take his point, but he's seen that only through his eyes, which he's going to. Erik Bailly had some great games for Manchester United. I've seen him be man of the match against Chelsea away, playing in a 3, playing in a 5, playing in a 4. I watched him at Espanyol before he went to Villarreal, and straight away I thought there's a huge talent there. I knew his first professional manager, Manolo Marquez. He told me all about him. But he was too much of a risk for Manchester United. He plays way into contention. The best example is probably the Spurs game at Old Trafford last season. And after 3 minutes, makes a howler. And that was a game where Spurs scored six goals. And that happened too often. I know Ole Gunnar Solskjaer liked him. He knew that he had lots of ability. He knew he had lots of qualities. But managers have got to be able to trust their players. So going into this season, somebody said to me, Bailly will give it his all pre-season, and then he'll come to realise that he's not got a chance, and he'll have a big sulk when he's moved on. And that's exactly what happened. Against Liverpool pre-season in Bangkok, he did the best move of the match. He took on the entire Liverpool team. Manchester United won 4-0. Well, everything's great. But there were other times on that tour where he'd do something magnificent and in the next move make a complete howler. And at that level of football, you've got to be more consistent. So I think if he's in France, if he'd gone to Italy, if he'd gone to other countries, if he'd gone back to Spain, he'd be absolutely fine. But unfortunately, for a top-level Premier League team, he's not the perfect centre-half. I'm not saying the other players are either.
Yes. No, I think that's all fair. So Shaw and Maguire, you suspect, will take their medicine. What about Ronaldo? What's your understanding of how he's adjusting to the role of impact substitute?
I think that Ten Hag has played it completely right here. Pre-season, the mood was great. Ronaldo came back. The mood dropped. He didn't want to be at the club. He wanted to leave the club. He was offered around to multiple clubs. Nobody could come close to paying his wages. And he's got to take his medicine now. He's 37. He's not 27, not even 34 by Ronaldo's amazing standards. The fans were singing his name at Leicester. They were singing his name at Old Trafford. Hugely popular. I love the idea of him coming on and making a difference. And if he's doing well enough to start the games and make a difference, then great. But that's for the manager. And he probably feels that he's got Ronaldo in a better place now than a couple of weeks ago. And he's got the results to back up the decisions that he's made. He hasn't been starting. He's now coming off the bench. He's not getting 5 minutes at the end. He's getting a proper chunk of time. I still think there's a winner in him. But when he missed the pre-season, what do you expect? Pre-season's a hugely important part of the season. He missed it. So he wasn't central to his Erik ten Hag's plans at the start of the season, especially because he knew he wanted to leave. No one's going to come out and say that. He's never going to say that he wanted to leave any more than Wayne Rooney, who wanted to leave in 2013, because they don't need to say that. He's still got the fans on side. I think he can have a good season. Maybe he can even have a great season. But he's not the future of Manchester United at that age.
So quietly here, Ten Hag, to his credit, has done a lot. The Shaw, Maguire, Ronaldo moves. Eriksen, already you can jot him down as a successful signing. I mean, he's a joy to watch and brings much needed composure and quality to that Manchester United team. And then the other interesting development of late, I suppose, is Marcus Rashford, who apparently did say to Ten Hag, I want to play through the middle. And I heard Gary Neville talking on his podcast, and he was making the point that he never quite felt Rashford had the subtlety to his game to be a big success, shunted out on the left-hand side to beat a player or have a trick, whereas sprinting onto the ball as he did for one of the goals, that is something that's right in his wheelhouse. So whether he plays left or middle, regardless, we're seeing a player who really looked like we thought might be finished, reborn here all of a sudden.
Yeah, glad you mentioned Eriksen as well. I thought he was the best player on the pitch, and surprised that he played the 90, but he was man of the match. Now, with Rashford, over the years, I've been told he prefers to play centrally, and then you see him playing centrally and he doesn't score enough goals. That's how you'll be judged as a central striker, end of. And then he moves back out on the left with mixed success, and he's had a couple of bumpy years, not months, years. So to see him this season scoring goals against Liverpool, against Arsenal, 2 goals. He set up Anthony as well for the first goal. And you're quite right to pick out that run. Bruno Fernandes takes a risk with those chances. The passes don't always come off. There are groans when he loses the ball. But he's not a central midfielder just passing side to side. He's always looking for that decisive pass forward, which splits the line, splits the defence. Rashford ran onto it. The speed that he ran onto it was my main taking in the stadium, looking at that. Whoa. And then suddenly he's faced with a goalkeeper and the double-tiered Stretford end with 19,000 people in it. And you're looking up. Imagine you doing that, what it must be like, the pressure you must be under. Bang, he finishes. The Stretford end started singing his name soon after. And what a nice time for Marcus Rashford, because he's had a huge amount of criticism for his disappointing performances. And they have been disappointing. His numbers have not been good. He's looked surly. He's looked unhappy. So to see him being the opposite of that is what a lot of fans wanted. And a lot of fans had given up on him and other players, Anthony Martial. So these are players who are getting chances and they're taking them. And fans ultimately might say, I thought he was finished, or I've got to hold my hands up. But they're being proven wrong. But we're only 6 games into the season.
Well, this is it. And just a last thought then, Andy. I'm sure you've seen it, and various Manchester United fans might have seen it. There was an 8-pass sequence against Leicester, which kind of went viral amongst fans, partly because it was Manchester United beating the press, passing out from the back, beating the press, good football. Not something United fans are accustomed to seeing for a long time now, actually. And so the question really, or the point to get your thoughts on, at this point, when Solskjaer had got things going in a good direction as a counter-attacking team, there was just a certain pressure. We're Manchester United. We're not just a counter-attacking team. We dominate teams as well. Eventually, that'll come to Ten Hag's door. But do you think there'll be more patience, almost, in a sense that if you can keep results largely good, we don't mind if we're not necessarily playing 20-pass sequences. We don't mind if it's Eriksen to Fernandes to Rashford.
Results have got to be at the minimum level. He's got the advantage that the mood was on the floor when he came in. I think he's more tactically astute than those who've gone before him. He's not just about a counter-attacking side. I speak to high-level tacticians who try to explain to me what's going on, and it's like trying to understand Basque. But I can't grasp some of the things that they're saying. And last week they were saying, look at what McTominay's doing now. He's moving up to support the midfielders, and he's dropping back when as part of a low block, which gives numerical superiority. And I watch it back and go, oh yeah. And you're talking about that eight passing move at Leicester. I was there, I didn't even notice it, and I'm sat in the stand. So this just shows how football's being consumed now. We're going back, we're taking these bite-sized chunks, and I've seen so many since Sunday that I didn't even see at the game at the weekend. But they're encouraging. And this isn't laughing at Manchester United. This isn't analysing mistakes, which we would have been last season. These are analysing and highlighting signs of progress, which I think will encourage all Manchester United fans. There's going to be bumps along the way. I'm told even today by people I spoke to, because I'm just working up a story and I speak to my sources, yeah, it's good, but this is still a work in transition. But it's been a really encouraging few weeks for Manchester United.
Okay, well, I don't know when the last time we spoke was after 4 United wins in a row, but it's been years. So Andy Mitten, editor of United We Stand. Thanks very much, Andy. Cheers.
Thank you. It was April 21 when Manchester United last won.
It feels like April 2013, but I'll take your word for it.